If you're a beginner or even just starting your sewing journey, you've probably heard that it can be a bit tricky. Well, what if I told you there are simple, grown-up friendly hacks that instantly make your sewing easier, faster, and more fun? Here are 3 essential hacks for absolute beginners. Welcome back to Sew What, a podcast where I hold your hands through your beginner sewing journey. So today we demystify the sewing machine and turn your I can'ts into I made that. We're going to be diving into 3 essential sewing hacks for absolute beginners. These aren't complicated techniques, and they're smart, practical tips that seasoned sewists rely on every day. So now get ready to level up your sewing game. Let's jump in. Hack number 1 is the magic of pressing and pre-washing. This hack is a 2-part foundational secret that has nothing to do with the actual stitching, but everything to do with professional looking results. So let's start with pre-washing. You've bought your beautiful fabric, you're ready to cut, but stop. Resist that urge. Most woven fabrics, especially cottons, will shrink the first time they're washed. So if you make a garment before washing the fabric, it might fit perfectly until you toss it into the laundry machine. And then suddenly it's a dull shirt. The hack here is before you cut anything at all, wash and dry your fabric the same way you plan to wash and dry the finished product. This pre-shrinks the material so your finished product holds its size and shape. It's an easy, proactive step that saves you a major headache down the line. Now for the second part, pressing. There's a huge difference between ironing and pressing. Ironing involves moving your iron back and forth, which can distort your seams and stretch your fabric. Pressing means setting the iron down, holding it briefly, and lifting it up. The hack here is to press every single seam after you sew it. You sew a seam, you take it to the iron, and you press it flat before sewing the next seam. This one step is a secret sauce for crisp edges, flat seams, and a truly professional finish. Seriously, it's often said that a great sewist spends as much time at the ironing board as they do at the machine. If you want your handmade items to look professionally made, press those seams. Now on to hack number 2, washi tape as a perfect seam guide. Okay, let's move over the machine for 1 second. And the number 1 frustration for new sewists is often keeping a straight seam allowance. You look at those little measurement lines on your sewing machine's throat plate, and it feels impossible to keep your fabric edge perfectly aligned to the throat plate. The problem, those edge lines are often faint, and they don't extend far enough out to give you good visual guide for your whole seam. The hack. Grab some washi tape or even a bit of colorful painter's tape. Here's how you do it. First, lower your needle onto the throat plate exactly at the seam allowance. That's the seam allowance you want to use. Say the standard 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch. And with the needle down, take a small piece of washi tape and line up one edge with the raw edge of your fabric, creating a physical fence for your fabric edge. Now peel and stick the tape directly onto your sewing machine's throat plate, extending it out a good distance in front of your presser foot. Now instead of squinting at a faint line, you have a brightly colored, slightly raised barrier as you sew. You simply keep the raw edges of your fabric bumped right up against the edge of the washi tape. And it's a game changer for maintaining a consistent seam allowance. It peels off without leaving any residue, and it's perfect. It creates perfect straight lines every single time. Next hack is having a simple solution for tricky fabrics. This hack addresses a couple of common beginner nightmares. Starting a seam on a lightweight fabric and sewing over bulky spots. First, the scrunch. Now, if you've ever tried to start sewing on a lightweight fabric like silk or rayon, you know the frustration. The machine's feed dog grabs the fabric, and before you know it, it's chewed up and scrunched up to the needle plate, creating a mess we lovingly call a bird's nest. The hack. Use a scrap starter before you put your actual project fabric under the needle plate. Place a small folded scrap of firm woven fabric like a denim or quilting cotton remnant under the presser foot. Start sewing on that scrap and then feed project fabric right up against it. The machine will happily stitch through the thick scrap, and when it hits your delicate fabric, thread tension will be stabilized, preventing the scrunch. And once you're an inch or 2 into your seam, you can snip the scrap fabric away. Now, second is conquering the bulk. What about sewing over thick spots like when you try to hem denim? The machine sometimes chugs, the press foot tilts, and your stitches look uneven or skip entirely. The hack here. This is where we use the hamp jumper or piece of cardboard. Sewing machines come with a small plastic tool called a hump jumper or a leveling tool if you don't have one. Just fold a piece of thick cardboard or a cereal box. When you approach a bulky seam, slide the hump jumper or your folded cardboard behind the presser foot to keep it leveled. This prevents the foot from tilting down too sharply, which keeps your fabric feeding smoothly and ensures even stitches are as you cross that thick hurdle. Once you're past the bulk, slide it out and continue sewing. And there you have it. 3 simple grown-up friendly hacks. Implement these into your routine and I promise you'll see a massive improvement in the quality and enjoyment of your sewing projects. Remember, sewing isn't about being perfect right away. It's about learning the smart shortcuts that make the process smoother. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. Until next time, keep your seams straight, your scissors sharp, and your needles threaded. Happy sewing.